king had an incredibly beautiful daughter. People said she was so beautiful that no painter could ever create a perfect portrait of her. When the princess became old enough to marry, the king came up with a strange idea. He made the princess stand on the castle wall with an apple in her hand. Then he announced that whichever young man the princess threw the apple to would not only marry her, but also receive half of the kingdom. As soon as the news spread, wealthy nobles and princes from nearby kingdoms gathered outside the palace. But surprisingly, when the princess threw the apple, nobody could catch it. The next day, however, a simple village boy arrived, and the moment the princess threw the apple this time, it flew straight into the boy's hands. It almost seemed like the princess had intentionally chosen him, but the king instantly disliked the boy, so he decided to give him a dangerous challenge. The king owned hundreds of rabbits, and he told the boy, "You will take care of all my rabbits. If even one rabbit goes missing, your head will be cut off immediately." The boy became worried because he had no experience taking care of rabbits. Just then, an old woman appeared beside him. She handed him a whistle and said, "Son, whenever you face trouble, blow this whistle, and everything will be fine." The boy kept the whistle. The next morning, as soon as the palace gates opened, all the rabbits began jumping and running everywhere like wild horses. The boy panicked, but then he quickly blew the whistle, and suddenly, something magical happened. All the rabbits instantly lined up in front of him like a BTS army formation. Even the king was shocked to see it. Then the king came up with another trick. The next day, he sent the princess disguised as a poor girl to ask the boy for one rabbit. The king thought that if the boy handed over even one rabbit, he could count it as missing and punish him. The princess reluctantly wore old clothes and went to the boy, but the moment the boy saw her, he immediately recognized that she was the princess. When the princess asked for a rabbit, the boy replied, "If you give me a kiss, I'll give you one rabbit." The princess refused and said, "I'm not the king's daughter." The boy smiled and said, "I don't care who you are. First give me a kiss, then you'll get the rabbit." Left with no choice, the princess agreed. As soon as she kissed him, the boy placed a rabbit into her basket. The princess immediately ran back toward the palace with the rabbit, but while she was still on the way, the boy blew the whistle again, and the rabbit quietly jumped out of the basket and returned to him. When the princess reached the palace and showed the basket to the king, the rabbit was gone. Embarrassed, the princess lied to her father. "Father, I tried everything. I was even ready to stand upside down for him, but that stubborn fool still refused to give me a rabbit." The king became furious. This time, he disguised himself as an old man, rode a donkey, and went to the boy himself. He said, "Son, I have terrible hemorrhoids. Please give me a rabbit." The doctor said, "I need to put medicine on the rabbit and suck it to heal." The boy wasn't foolish enough to ask the king for a kiss, so instead he said, "If you kiss either this donkey's tail or its black walnuts, I'll give you a rabbit." The king thought for a moment. Then, out of desperation, he kissed the donkey's tail and took the rabbit. But once again, the boy blew the whistle, and the rabbit immediately returned to him. When the king and princess returned home without the rabbit, they were both furious. That night, when the boy came back to the palace with every single rabbit, the king had no choice but to admit that the boy had passed the challenge. But even then, the king made one final condition. "If you can fill this sack with lies, I will allow you to marry the princess immediately." The boy thought, does this king have hemorrhoids in his brain? How can someone fill a sack with lies? But the boy wasn't ready to lose, so he started telling the biggest lies he could imagine. "Today, while I was catching rabbits, the king came to me. First he kissed my donkey's tail, and then he started trying to kiss my..." Before the boy could finish, the king jumped up in panic. All right, that's enough.